Hi folks, hope you're okay. Today we're looking at this book, Gospel Truth, Answering the New Atheist Attacks on the Gospels, Paul Barnett, and it's IVP. I put a link to the book if you want to read it, and I hope you find it a blessing. He writes, page 28, the letters of Paul written between AD 48 Galatians and AD 65, the year of Paul's deaths, are even closer to Jesus than the Gospels. Paul wrote to the Galatians in AD 48, to the Thessalonians in AD 50 and 51, to the Corinthians in AD 55 and 56, to Romans in 57. We are not able to date the letters of James and Peter, but they were probably written within the span of Paul's letters. In fact, the letters and Gospels that comprise the New Testament, 27 documents in total, were written between AD 33 and 100. Paul's epistles in the 50s, say, and Gospels in the 70s. Educated people in the era of the New Testament were interested in historical writing and biographies. Josephus wrote two massive histories about the Jews as well as his own autobiography, and Tacitus wrote two historical works and a biography. Both authors wrote to inform their readers about past events and people, but in each case with a strong point of view. Josephus wrote the Jewish war to warn the Jews not to rebel against the might of Rome, whilst Tacitus' Annals of Imperial Rome portrays the Caesars as those who portray the ideals of Roman Republic. Nonetheless, these writers would have realized the limitations of the circulation of their works, since each had to be laboriously copied by scribes. This explains why so few manuscripts of these important works have survived. There are only 9 copies of the Jewish War, the oldest of which is from the 10th century, and just one of the Annals, which is incomplete and from the 15th century. By contrast, there are many hundreds of manuscripts of the New Testament text, whether as surviving fragments of a book, p. 52, the early 2nd century fragment of John 18, a semi-complete individual book of p. 75, mid-2nd century John, as collection of Gospels and the Acts, p. 45, a late 2nd century codex, a collection of letters of Paul in Hebrew, p. 46, a late 2nd century codex, or a complete New Testament Codex Sinaiticus from the 4th century. Furthermore, as the Christian message spread further afield, its texts were translated from Greek into Latin texts, Syriac, Coptic, and Armenian. This plethora of New Testament texts is indeed striking when one considers the paucity of surviving texts of Josephus and Tacitus. There is a simple explanation for this. The message about Christ was initially a verbal message. Jesus was a teacher, and his original followers were teachers of a message they called the gospel, which meant good and important news. The point is, if you look at the ancient text and you compare it to the Gospels by far, you get more copies and earlier than any other ancient document. So any person who says we don't know what the early church thought is just being silly.